My dear friends, this week we'll be reading the Torah portion, the double portion actually, of Achrei Mos and Kedoshim, which happens in many years that we read them together. And in the first of the two portions, Achrei Mos, there's a verse, one of the verses that always attracted me very much to two words in that verse that have so much meaning, not just a mitzvah, not just an important message, but a very fundamental message of what the Torah is trying to tell us and what Judaism is really all about. And that is, it talks about we have to follow the laws and the commandments that Hashem had given to us. Chapter 18, verse number 5, and it finishes off, V'chai bahem ani Hashem. You have to live with these commandments and these laws. I am the Lord your God. What does it mean you have to live by these laws? So technically, from here we learn something very important. That if at any time there's a conflict between doing a mitzvah or life itself, so for instance on Shabbat, someone gets very sick, and the only way to ensure that they get better, or at least we make sure they don't die, is by desecrating the Shabbat. You have to take them by car to the hospital. The doctor has to do certain procedures. When it's a life and death situation, the Torah says you temporarily push aside the mitzvah of Shabbat because life takes precedence. And we learn many laws about this concept of life takes precedence. It's not always, because there are three cardinal sins, which are idolatry, adultery, and any type of incestual relationships, or murder, where if you're in a situation when the only way you can save your life is by committing idolatry, by worshiping an idol. And an idol is, even in Buddhism, it has idols. It's not only what we think ancient. In the Far Eastern religions, there are many of them that have idols, and we have to be very careful about those things. Or adultery, having a wrong relationship, doing something that's against the Torah, like an adulterous relationship. Not every illicit relationship or not every forbidden relationship is in the same status, but having an adulterous relationship with someone who's married. And thirdly, killing someone to save our lives. There, we rather die, al kiddush Hashem, sanctifying God's name, because these are cardinal sins that if you do them, you have sort of violated the basic premise of humanity. And otherwise, every other sin of the 610, life takes precedence. And there's a lot about that, but that's the general law. But there's something else that's in those words that's much deeper. And that is that often we think, and I hear from people sort of thinking, sometimes thinking aloud, sometimes verbalizing, that Torah is like following the Torah is like carrying a heavy load. And if you carry a heavy load and you feel always like bent over because the load is bringing you down, and it's obviously making you feel, losing your sense of excitement and losing a sense of enjoyment. So very often people think the Torah is so demanding that it's like I'm carrying a big load. So actually there's a fascinating story that happened once by dollars on Sunday, when the Rebbe gave out dollars for 6 years every Sunday. If it wasn't a holiday or something, the Rebbe gave out dollars, and he would stand for 4 to 6 hours. Thousands of people every Sunday would come in line to get $1. The Rebbe would make them a messenger for charity. And very often, in the few short seconds, there were many blessings that were asked, and incredible stories and miracle stories and other types of stories. It's really incredible. One Sunday, a woman who came towards the end of the Sunday after Rebbe was standing 5 hours straight, non-stop, didn't stop to take a drink or anything else or rest. And she says, Rebbe, how do you do it? Rebbe, how do you do it? You're not a young man. How do you stand and hand out? I challenge you. Try to stand and hand out dollars to people. See if it will last 5 minutes even. The Rebbe was already 5 hours into it. And the Rebbe said, when someone's climbing a mountain and carrying a load, it depends what the load is. If you're carrying a load of stones and you're climbing the mountain, wow, it's difficult, it's hard. Every step takes so much energy out of you. But imagine if you're carrying a sack full of diamonds. How fast would you run up that hill where you have to go? It's all a load, but depending if the load to you is diamonds or the load is rocks. So many people tell me Torah, they feels like a load of rocks. It's too much. I wake up in the morning and the Torah tells me to do this and to do that, to stay away from this. I can't do it. And if that's your attitude, that it's like a load of rocks, it's very hard. And I don't know how people do it. But if you realize, V'chai b'hem, the only reason Hashem gave us the commandments, the Torah itself, the only reason He told us 365 commandments, stay away from things. Don't eat treif, don't eat not kosher. Don't desecrate Shabbos and holidays. Or whatever God told us or to do. Celebrate holidays, put on tefillin, light the Shabbat candles. Because v'chai b'hem, because every mitzvah you do adds life to you. Not necessarily years and days in this world, but it adds a quality of life you can never attain, not by getting $1 billion or trying to be the first one to get $1 trillion. It'll never happen. Because the quality of what doing a mitzvah and getting infinite energy from God, because every time we do a mitzvah, that's what happens. Nothing compares, nothing comes even close. And you won't know it until you do mitzvahs. Because every mitzvah you'll do, you'll feel something good. Now imagine you multiply that by doing so many mitzvahs a day. It's a different world. So v'chai b'hem, live with them. Realize it gives you life. Realize it's sacks of diamonds you're carrying. Where do we run next to get the next sack of diamonds? This is the message of this week's Torah portion. And contemplate it and think about how to start changing or bettering our attitude towards Torah and mitzvahs. And you'll see, allow the life to come into you. It's impossible not to feel it. So with that, I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. May God bless you all. We love you. Shabbat in Montreal begins 7:34 p.m. And please join us on our pre-Shabbat virtual Songs and Inspiration, 5:30 Fridays, ChabadTMR.com/virtual Chabad. All the best, my friends.